Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Mummy Means Business podcast. Today I'm really excited to have this next guest. Her name's Natasha and she is a mother of three. She's also the founder of a company called No Cakes Are Better, where she bakes and designs cakes for any occasion. And recently she has started a new service where she provides bespoke classes. So it's one-on-one classes for anyone who's looking to get into the cake business, or anyone really interested in starting a business, or for anyone who really loves cakes and just wants to bake cakes themselves. I'm really excited to have her on board. Actually, she was my teacher in secondary school, so I think year 9, 10, 11 I had her. She was an English teacher. She wasn't my specific English teacher, but she was an English teacher in the school, and she also taught so we had like a choir in like the last few years of school, and she was like the choir lead, and it was really fun. We were singing loads of songs from what's that, Sister Act, and rapping. So that's just what I know her from. And I actually remember when I found out that she was a Christian as well. I was walking in Peckham and I just saw my teacher on the street, like singing songs and like praising God, and reaching out to people, telling them about God. And I was like, oh, that's my teacher. And by chance, I happened to just go to the same church as her. So we've kind of built a good relationship over the last 10 years. And I've just been, when I started this podcast, I was literally thinking it would be great to have you on board because you're just such an amazing mom, businesswoman, teacher, etc. So I'm really, really excited to have you. So thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Before we jump straight into the business aspect, I know you're a mum of three, and your kids are now grown. Your daughter is a teenager in secondary school now. Do you know what? I actually remember when you were pregnant with Joshua.
I know. And now she's nearly as tall as me and we wear the same size clothes. It's crazy.
It's crazy. But back then, before you had any of those kids, and when it was just you and your husband, did you, think you were the mum that you were gonna be now? Or like how was that motherhood journey been for you?
Oh, it's been weird. I think when I originally got married, the plan was to just do my career. I think I was never really that maternal to start off with. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do my career. I'm going to be a head teacher. I'm going to own my school. And I'll just, yeah, and then kids started coming. And then I was like, okay. And to be honest, I hadn't really, those some mums that kind of dream about it from day dot. I wasn't one of those mothers. I just kind of had to learn on the job. So I can't even say I'm not what I anticipated because I hadn't actually thought about what I would be like. I've literally just got stuck in and learning on the job and still learning now.
So you kind of fell into motherhood almost, like
Yeah,
it was.
I fell into motherhood. There was no plan. In fact, when I got pregnant, I had actually resigned from my job because I was like, yeah, I'm just going to be at home for a while. I was going to do Mary Kay. I think I was doing Mary Kay at that time, another business franchise. And then I found out I was pregnant. And I was like, what?
So that wasn't even planned. Like
No,
you
there
had
was no plan.
changed your career path before you had a
Literally.
baby.
And I ended up having no maternity pay because obviously I felt too bad. I was like, I'm only going to be retracting my resignation because I want maternity pay and they're going to know that. And I should have just done it. Everybody else just said that I should have just done it, but I felt too embarrassed to do that. So I ended up having no maternity pay. And it just was a bit of a long drama after that. I ended up going back to work when she was really young because loads of other different circumstances unfolded. So yeah, it was not planned and completely unexpected in many ways. But we've been there, done that, and I think we're on the journey.
And then now 3 kids later.
3 kids later.
Because
No more other. That's it.
some people who are not maternal just have one and they're like, yeah, that's it. I'll just focus my energy on this one child and then that's it for me. But you went on to have another and another.
Because I really didn't ever want the single child thing. I don't, other people choose to do that for whatever reason, but I loved the relationship I had with my sister. We got on really well. We weren't very close. We were like 3.5 years. And I did my kids quite close together, kind of 18 to 20 months apart. And I've always wanted, if I was going to have kids, it would be more than one, and they'd have to be close together so that they could play like me and my sister did.
That's the same as me. Me and my sister are three, no, not even 3 years, like 2 years and 6 months apart. And then her and my older brother are like 11, no, like 14 months apart. So I literally, and I love the bond that we have. Like, I think now well, every day I speak to my sister, like at least two to three times a day, every day we speak. And I've always wanted that in my kids. Like, I just want loads of kids, but I want them to be like best friends, grow up together, not like a massive age gap. So I'm literally on board with you. But before, you became a mum and before you kind of went on this motherhood journey, was baking a career path that you've always wanted to go into, or was that also kind of random as well?
Very random. I'm just a random I don't do much planning. I found I just kind of fall into things. I started doing cakes after my dad had always baked, following on from my grandma and my auntie. They bake fruit cake, like Jamaican fruit cake. That was a traditional thing in our family. But I'd never learned of him. And my mum-in-law was also a baker. And for some reason, I think I was bored on maternity. I was like, yeah, teach me how to bake, Mum. And so she showed me a sponge cake. I can remember the first cake that I made and decorated. It was actually disgusting. Now look at it. Oh my God. I've got a picture of it. I would never show anybody that picture. But I kind of liked the idea of doing it. So when it was my niece's second birthday, I don't know why I decided to do a novelty cake, but she was into a cartoon character called Pocoyo. And basically I just decided to do this giant cake that was I think it was about 24 inches long, big cake. And it was novelty. And everybody was like, wow, oh my gosh. And I liked that. So I was like, maybe I can do some more of these. So I just started doing cakes for people for free, just as gifts, and then was getting a really good response. So I thought, let me try. And learnt from YouTube.
But then how did you learn so you learned from YouTube in terms of obviously the baking of the cake, I don't know. I don't want to say that's the easy part, but it's not. You can grasp that. But in terms of the design that you create, I know there was one time did you make a cake for? I think you made the Queen, or there was like a massive cake that you made and you entered it into a competition or something like that.
I am I'm quite artistic, I think, in general. I can paint, so I think the artistic bit was kind of already in me. And then I'm a very kind of, I don't like doing things plain. I always like to make things extra. I make work for myself, unfortunately. So I decided, I don't want to just make a plain, simple cake. And so when I started Googling cakes that people made, I saw these novelty design cakes. I was like, I'm going to make a cake like a handbag. And I would just look at pictures. YouTube is like amazing. YouTube is just the best thing in the world. You can learn anything you want on YouTube. And so I Googled things, and if there wasn't a tutorial, I would do close-ups and work out, and as I've gone along, I've learned better ways and better techniques, because I kind of work things out in my head and guessed a lot of techniques initially. But as I've gone through the years, I've learned that's why mine always looks so rubbish, because I never used one of those, and kind of thing. So it's just all been trial and error, Google and YouTube being my best friends. And I've really enjoyed the journey of learning, still learning.
So you never really went to like a class or like a cake, it's what you're providing, bespoke classes for anyone who wants to do this. You didn't do that yourself. You kind of just learn as you went along. So why is it important for people to kind of do these classes and actually get the proper training rather than just winging it?
Do you know what? I think I should have been an advocate of education, considering I'm a teacher. Should always have been an advocate of getting a proper education, but I'm just somebody that can't wait. So at the time, I couldn't think of where to find a course, and I just wanted to do it. So I just went straight in. But I think it is always good to perfect your craft. And so I did eventually do a couple of classes. I did a class on how to make sugar flowers. And that has transformed the way I do sugar flowers now. And then I did one when I started making novelty things on how to make shoes. And you pay quite a bit for those classes. They're not cheap. But when you want to do something properly, you go to a proper class. I'm planning to go to another one. Somebody whose work I really admire. And I know I can make cakes and decorate cakes, but I want to learn and I want to get better. So I would always advise people, there's hobby bakers. When I first started doing classes, somebody from church just wanted to watch me, and she came along to a couple of classes, and before you know it, she just became amazing. Like, she ended up working for me for a time, and then set up her own business. She's amazing. And I genuinely think it's because she's dedicated time to learn how to do it properly. You can wing it and you'll get there in the end. I know lots of people that have. So I'm not saying that you can't learn without it, but I think it's always good to have proper tutoring, and somebody that's done it, been there, done it, that can show you how, and show you how to avoid some mistakes and pitfalls and things like that.
Yeah, do you know what is it kind of applies to any business that you're going into. Even myself, like, if I hadn't, done PR or done some sort of social media communication in general, what in my day-to-day job, I can't just you can wing it, but at the end of the day, people are paying you money and they want a quality results, especially with cakes. You see on Instagram a lot, like, what I ordered versus what I received.
Exactly. That's what you want to avoid.
And some of those images are just so sad.
For my cake to ever be on one of those pictures, it would never happen. Jesus,
Never,
never.
obviously not, because you're five-star. So yeah, that's actually really interesting what you said. But what role did your husband play in all of this? Like, when you told him that you wanted to kind of jump straight in and do this as a full-time business, was he on board? Does he help baking? Like, what role would you say he plays in your business?
Oh, I would say support. I mean, to be honest, he didn't, because we both didn't, as I said, I'm not a planner, so we didn't have a kind of sit down conversation, or what's it going to be like, do I approve? There was nothing like that. But as the business grew, and it became a lot more demanding, cake is a lot of work, and basically many times I would have to stay up through the night, or at least till the very small hours. So he is so supportive. He will not go to bed until I finished. So he will fall asleep with me, like bucking in the corner, and are you finished yet? Because they want me to stay awake on my own. It's so sweet. I'm like, you can go to bed, baby. It's okay. He's like, no, it's okay. I'm fine. And that is so lovely to have him kind of backing me, and just in general support. He didn't complain when, obviously, in the beginning there's no money to invest apart from our own money, and that obviously some husbands could be moaning about that, but he allowed me to invest in the business, and I think that's the reason why it's here today. So I am grateful. He doesn't bake any cake, and I don't think he has.
Does he eat any cake?
He loves to eat the cake. All the offcuts, and when I don't give him any offcuts, he's like, "Wow, have you not made any offcuts for me?" So, so yeah, but yeah, he's really supportive, and I'm very grateful. I couldn't do it without him, so I have to big him up.
So yeah, how did you get your business off the ground? You mentioned earlier that you were offering cakes for free to just your friends and family, just to kind of get their feedback. But in terms of financing those cakes, where did you get that money, and where did you get the support?
Do you know what? Initially, it was all self-funded, because I don't have a big reservoir of savings, or anywhere that I could have got that money from. So initially I would just bake and decorate cakes at the minimal cost, try and get the best results for the minimal cost. And as I started getting money, I would literally plow it all back into the business. So I would go to this annual cake show, and when I went there, I would see loads of different cake vendors that had lots of different equipment and materials. Every year I would literally go and spend all the money that I'd just earned to just plow it all back in and buy like hundreds of stuff. I ended up duplicating so many things because I'm such a magpie. I'm like, oh my god.
Any discounts, you're like, buy one get one free.
Anything that everybody says is amazing. I'm a sucker for advertising. So if you show me something, I'm like, wow, oh my gosh, I've got to get that. So I'm the person, they want people like me to come to those sales because I just waste money. So I did end up buying loads and loads of things and just self-funded that until I started making money that I could kind of try to save to kind of invest more long-term in the business.
So I know you mentioned obviously you invested it in yourself, but obviously over a period of time and after, you're getting loads of orders and stuff like that, and you're charging, not a lot for you to make a profit, you're just kind of breaking even and covering the cost. How did you kind of expand from, getting friends and family who kind of want the discounts and they want the, mates rates, to people who are outside of your friends and family bubble or circle to buy into your product?
Oh, do you know what? I think I remember now. Again, this comes back to education. I went on a business course, a really short one, and I can't remember who it was run by, but they did some training about getting a website, getting yourself kind of set up, getting business cards out there, and just trying to set yourself up as a professional business, so that you could be professionally client facing. And so after that, I think that propelled me into being a little bit more brave to start charging people. If I had a website and I had business cards, I felt more professional. And so I think the launch really came from that little bit of education that I got about making business plan, even though I really have to confess I never actually ever made a proper business plan. That's really bad.
I'm the same. We had a podcast with Tolu recently, and literally, I was so pumped. I was like, yes, I'm gonna leave this interview and go and make a business plan. And I googled business plan. I was like, this is long.
I think we are very similar in personality. You remind me of myself a lot. I just want fast on results.
Yep.
Now I just want to see it. I know what my idea is. I know how to do it. I'm just going to do it, and that's how I work. And like I said already, although I'm not the best student of my own teaching, it is not the best way forward if you want to be really successful. And I'm really learning that if I want No Cakes Are Better to get properly off the ground in the way that I would like. I mean, I say off the ground, it's been running since 2009, so it's not like it's not off the ground, but to be where I want it to be as a business, I have to invest some proper time into planning and researching. I heard Rosemary's podcast, and I was like, oh, I'm so inspired. I want to do that now. So I really do think that is the way forward. I've made so many mistakes with this business. I am still learning, and I do need to go back and do that properly.
And did you have to have like your family's hands on? Like if you had a massive cake order, did you have your family helping, or did you have to kind of hire externally support and help? Because I know you mentioned you had someone who was shadowing you and kind of working for you for a bit.
I did a couple of apprentices where they were just working in exchange for being taught. Basically, I can't remember what they're called, interns, and they did that for a time. That helped me have a bigger business. But in fairness, I don't know how it works for other people, but I ended up paying so much in salary when I did recruit one of them to work as a full-time employee. I spent so much in salary. I kind of didn't earn any real profit because all my profit was ploughed into salary. So I made a decision to not take on that many orders so that I could fulfill them myself and not have to pay for additional help. Although in saying that, I'm recently starting to work. My daughter's now a teenager, as I mentioned, and she's amazing. She's so talented, so skillful, and so she loves it. I think it makes her feel grown up, but she loves to help. So I get her to help me make toppers and pipe cakes. She can actually bake cupcakes from scratch, like down pat. I can just say, I need 36 cupcakes, Ayana. I need 48. Can you have this on there? Do that. She can do it without me even looking now. It's amazing. So I'm going to start teaching them more so I can get a little bit of a second hand.
Yeah, it technically is. You're working. This business is for her too, isn't it? In the future, when she becomes a star baker, she'll just take over, and then you just be sitting in the Bahamas with your husband, chilling, taking in the money. So, but now, obviously, now that your business has grown, you have this new classes that you're providing. Do you still kind of need initial finance, or some finance to help push it to the next level, or is it now at a place where it's just funding itself?
It is self-financing in as much as, I don't know, but when you have lots of kids, there's no such thing as free cash free cash floating around. I don't know about other people's kids. Are so expensive. Like, if it's not dinner money, it's clothes. If it's not clothes, it's music lessons. If it's not music lessons, it's swimming
I'm
lessons.
not there yet.
Oh my days!
He
Like,
just
your
wants
whole
to be
salary
breastfed, and
just
that's it.
goes on, and then they grow like ridiculously and start wearing adult clothes that cost like 10 times as much. So yeah, so there's not a lot of free flowing cash to just be investing hundreds and hundreds of pounds into a business. It has to fund itself. So I now kind of have a separate account, which I didn't have before, which has made all the difference. So I can see I have this much cash and I can do that with it. And that's helping me to really be a bit more structured and know what I've got really to play with. So that's how I'm funding the classes and the business in general.
And do you have like a different way of marketing depending on your clients? Like, if it's your friends and family, do you do much like marketing to them to kind of pitch them to, if they have a wedding or whatever, to book with you, versus an external client or even like a company or business? Do you have different styles of pitching them, or do you kind of just get word of mouth recommendation? You don't really need to do much pitching.
Do you know what? I do one marketing not gimmick, but one marketing kind of push. I don't even know the language because I'm not into that as much as I should be. But at the beginning of the year, every year I'll do a wedding cake sale, and that generates a lot of people sometimes wait for it. They're like, "Are you doing your sale? Yeah, I'm getting married this year. Are you doing your sale?" Which is so funny. But apart from that, my clients are all word of mouth. I've got clients that I've had since I started 2009, and they come back repeatedly, and then somebody was at their wedding and they will have the cake for their son, and then now they've got a bridal shower. So it's like they all know each other, which for me is great. I love that. I'll give all of those clients that are referred or from some chain, I always give them a 10% discount, because I think that loyalty is just priceless, and the fact that they like the company and the product so much that they come back, I think that is worthy of rewarding. So they always get a discount. But I would say the majority, 98% of my business is all from word of mouth and recommendations, and then people coming back.
That's great, because even my business is exactly the same. And I was speaking to a friend the other day, and she was asking me, like, how, because I remember there was a time where I was by myself. I worked full-time job, and then I didn't have anyone working with me, and I literally had like 6 clients on working at the same time, over like a 3 to 6 months period. And I was literally going crazy, but it was literally all word of mouth. Like one person that I will meet at an event, or one person, or even like a friend will tell her friend, then that person will want to work with me, then that person will tell someone, and then it's like you can't, you feel bad, you don't want to say no,
Exactly, because they're a referral.
yeah. And because you don't want them to go back to their friend and say, oh, she didn't want to work with me, and it's so
I made a clone, Larry.
we're talking to the same people. It's true. But then do you feel bad? Like, do you ever have to turn down some orders, like when you become overwhelmed
Do you know what? Sometimes I have to, and I do feel awful, because before I had people that I could recommend that I'm 100% like. When Natalie was around, Natalie would get any order I couldn't do. That was my the apprentice that eventually started to work with me. If I couldn't do it, I could 100% refer to her, because I know her work. Everything was amazing. But then she just disappeared. And I was like, I'm back to Jamaica. I was like, hello.
Oh no. Oh, that's actually sad.
It's so sad, because now
She was great as well. She had
were
quality
amazing.
cakes.
Quality, but I was just like, I don't really have anybody that's exactly the same level in my immediate. Mama Jean's Cakes was coming up, and she was starting to be at that level now where I could say, yeah, I can refer to you. I know your cake tastes amazing, and now your decorating is at that level. I could refer to you. And then she disappeared off to Manchester. What's she doing in Manchester? So now I can't refer to her.
Oh gosh. So now it's just you. So
It's me. Yeah.
so how do you manage your time then between, because this is not your only business. This is not your only like job. You have other things that you're doing, and you work a full-time job, and you have a family. Like how do you do it? Tell me how you do it, because I want to learn, because I don't have a social life right now. And my baby's only 4 months.
That's the thing. Do you know what? There's no secret apart from God is just so nice to me. He's nice to me, because there is no real way that this could be achievable except for the grace of God. And that is not, I'm not being cliche here. What I do and manage to fit in, I have no idea how I do it and stay functioning, other than to give 150% credit to God. Like, he must work miracles, and he's just very kind to me, because I can't give you a practical, which is not helpful to your listeners. Maybe they want me to try and think of a real strategy or theory. All I can say is I do work hard. I'm not lazy, and I know nobody that I know really in my circles is a lazy person. And most mums, there's no lazy mums really. Most mums, even if you're working at home full time with your kids, that's a job and a half in itself. So people are doing it anyway. And as I said, the grace of God is, I think, the biggest credit to. But I am quite organised. I do have to plan. I use a diary, and I kind of plan my time in my head for during the day, but I kind of know when something is due, and then I work out in my head in the week, okay, that's due on Friday, so I'm going to bake it on this day, I'm going to decorate on this day, I'm going to do it after church, I'm going to do it in between this. So I plan it out. I do plan, and as I said, pray a lot, and God miraculously just has mercy on my foolishness, because some of it is madness. I mean, it's stupid. Some of the things I try and cram in, it's like, are you dumb? Like, why? Like, you're already doing this. Like, why are you doing that to yourself?
I am the same. Like, it's actually scary, because I was literally having this debate with my husband, and he was just, because I had a client who basically wanted me to do an additional work for them, and I was already like to the roof.
Exactly. And you just took it on.
I just don't know what's wrong with, and while I was taking it on, I was in my head, I was thinking, what's wrong with you, Victoria? Like you have no time.
I'm like, why did I just take on 2 extra cakes on a weekend where I already have 3 others and I'm working full time and I've got church 3 times that week?
I'm
Why
telling
did I
you.
do that?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really, yeah.
But
Sometimes it's because I don't want to let them down, but sometimes it's just being dumb.
yeah. But I think it's important what you say, plan, because I think what has helped me really well in terms of juggling different things is lists. Like I'm just so obsessed with lists. Like I'll make a list of what I need to do throughout the week, and every morning I make a list of what I need to do throughout the day. Even if it's like, doing the laundry, going to, Sainsbury's to get this. Like sometimes I think in my thoughts I have so many things going on that sometimes I forget things, or I can't, or I don't even know what I'm meant to be doing. So when I remember, I have to literally jot it down on my phone and just write it. And then at the end of the day, just like maybe around 8 o'clock, I look to see if there's anything that I've missed out, and I just carry it over to the next day. And I even like put asterisks in things that are priority, like you need to do this first. And I think that's kind of helped my brain not turn to mush.
Yeah, I need to start doing that. I keep hearing people talking about this list business. I'm just, when it's like, I can't even feel like I've got time to write the list. It's like, oh, I haven't got time to write that down. But it doesn't make
It's
any
so
sense.
so good because once you start writing the list, you just you're like, oh yeah, and that, oh yeah, and that, and that.
I feel happy when I tick it off. I'll be like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's the best feeling when you just like delete the stuff that you've done. It's so rewarding. Yes, definitely try it. That's the only way that I've like been able to, be normal. But yeah, thank you so much for being on this podcast. It's been really good to have you on, and it's really funny. It's everything that you've been saying is kind of like what I go through as well. So it's funny to hear that someone else is out there.
yeah, I love listening to these podcasts. I'm so inspired by all these women that you've had on. They're just amazing. So thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah, well, you've inspired me, but I have one more question before you go away. I know you've mentioned some key steps earlier, what you think people should do when they want to start something like yours, like, getting mentorship, going to classes, etc. But what would be the most important step? So for someone, whether she's a mum or not a mum, and she wants to start her own bakery or her cake business, what will be your advice to them?
Well, I've already covered learning your craft and, becoming skilled. I think what I would say that I have learned the hard way from, I know initially you do have to start off by doing a bit of freebie so that you can learn. But as soon as you have started to get accomplished, you must charge for your time and your resources and your efforts, because if you're ever going to make money from it, if you want it to be a hobby, then go for it. But if you want it to be a business, I've learned the hard way, and it's taken me a good few years to start making profit, because I just didn't charge because I felt bad, and it felt like it was a lot of money, more than Sainsbury's cakes. And I was like, how can I charge £60 for a cake and you can get one for £20? But they're making cakes with machines, and they're not by hand, and they're not as nice, and they're half the size of mine. So I have to charge in order to make it a profitable business. And I think a lot of mums I've seen doing cakes and things, they just don't charge enough, and it doesn't value your business. People will look and say, if you're charging £20 for a cake, then they won't value it either, because as far as they're concerned, it's not worth you charging properly, so they won't feel like it's worth paying for. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. But I would encourage any mum, if you're going to do a business, cost out what it costs you, think of your time, think of your resources, and add that to your kind of pricing.
Yeah, I think that's actually a great tip, because it's so hard to kind of get off that whole I'm doing it for free, or I'm doing it at like a little to nothing, to now I'm actually going to charge you, £300. And they're like, what? But yeah, it's true. You have to value yourself, and it's really important. But yeah, it's been great having you on board on this podcast. You're actually a woman that's inspiring to me. I know, and all these women who have been on my podcast are women who have been inspired by in some way. So I'm so grateful and appreciative for you to take your time out, you know, in your busy schedule to talk to me. But yeah, thank you. If you guys want to listen to this podcast, you can listen to it on any sound platform such as SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, and I always forget the last one. SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, and Apple Podcasts. That's the last one. And yeah, so we have another podcast next week. This podcast will be an interesting one. It will actually be with me and my husband. We'll just be chatting about from the male perspective, you know, how he feels like going to work every day when, you know, he has a newborn at home, etc. We never ever tackle the guys who have businesses and they have to, you know, juggle fatherhood. So we're gonna hit that next week. Make sure you tune in. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.